Welcome to another session of Searching for Salvation. This will be part two of our discussion on money. First of all, we always like to state what our goals are. And the goal we have is that we want to encourage everyone to look for their answers in the Bible from the Lord Himself. That's what we're trying to do here. We do not ask, and have not asked, and will not ask anyone to accept our opinions as law, if you will, or as truth. They are our opinions based upon our study, and we're just trying to state some things in a certain way that hopefully will garner some interest on someone's part to be able to examine what we're talking about and come up with their own ideas and their own opinions. The first session on money we talked about how that the Bible says that the love of money is the root of all sorts of evils, and that we need to understand that it's not money itself, but it's the love of money. Money is a tool. We talked about how that it's simply a tool we use in our lives every day, and it's a necessary tool. Like with all tools, I talked about in our different professions, we all have tools that we have to learn how to use properly. And the same is true with money. And so what we discussed was that where do you turn or where do you go to learn how to use money? And we talked about how that a lot of people use worldly wisdom, but that for Christians, we need to look to the Bible, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Is we're going to discuss about what does the Bible have to say about money. Well, first and foremost, there's about 135 scriptures in the New Testament that deal with money, riches, being rich, silver, gold, mammon, all of those different ways of describing this tool. The only ones of them that are positive, or you could consider positive and not negative, are those scriptures that deal with giving the money away to help someone else. That's it. Now, the Bible doesn't say you have to give all your money away, and even in Luke, when Luke is talking about that, he's not talking about physically giving your money away. We all have to determine that everything we have and we are belong to God. So we need to continue our discussion and see what the Bible tells us about how do we handle these riches, this money. Well, in Luke 16, he talks about the parable of the unfaithful steward. And Jesus says that he tells us that we need to be wise and use our money properly. Because if we don't, then how are we going to be able to handle real riches? And there's the question. What are real riches? Well, quite simply, those are the gifts from God of love and forgiveness and salvation, grace, the understanding of grace. All of these are real riches because they allow us then to go on and live our lives the way that Jesus wants us to. And he spent his entire life, all of his resources, which in point of fact was his time. He didn't worry too much about handling too much money himself. But he spent all of his time, because he loved his father, and his father told him to do these things, helping others. And that's what I believe, ultimately, that's what he wants us to do. Now, it's funny that in Luke 16, as soon as he discusses this, he turns to the Pharisees who are thinking in their mind, they don't agree, obviously, with Jesus because they love money. And so he goes on and tells them that, quite simply, the basic truth is you cannot serve God and mammon. You cannot love money and God. You can't do it. It's not possible. So that's a thing that we need to understand from the get-go. The Bible teaches us that we must always look at money as simply a tool, a part of our life, not something that is the ultimate goal of our life. Later on, at the end of the chapter, he even goes on and talks about the dangers of, one of the dangers of being rich, and that is the story about the rich man and Lazarus. Now, we all are blessed by God in different ways. I can imagine, because I am in the same position, I can describe this myself as this. I have everything I need. I have money, I have a car, I have a wonderful place to live, I am surrounded by the love of my brethren and my family and God. I have everything. I cannot imagine having anything else. My cup runneth over. And I'm sure there are many people out there that have the same ideas. And the one thing that they'll add to that always is that they've got their retirement taken care of. In other words, their future is secure. Well, my future is secure, but my security does not rest in any way to the amount of money I have set aside for my future. My faith is in God. Of course, I'll quickly say, I know that I don't want to be a burden to anyone, so yes, I have savings, and so forth and so on. But it is not my ultimate goal. It's not what I think about all the time, and is ultimately the source of my security. We have to understand this. All of us do. Those of us who are blessed. Did we earn this? I mean, does God owe us these blessings because of how hard we worked or what we accomplished or so forth and so on? Of course not. They're all blessings from God. Our abilities, our jobs, everything in our life that is good is a gift from God. It's grace in action. We didn't earn anything. The only thing we've earned is death because we sinned. So the point I'm trying to make here is, why did he give us all these blessings? Why do we have this money, this excess of money, and so forth and so on? There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with having a nice house, having a nice car, being able to go on vacations. None of that is inherently wrong. But here's the point we all need to wrestle with and understand, I believe. If we utilize all that we have and all that we've been given just for ourselves, how can that be pleasing to God? He tells us that he's not going to be mocked. What we reap, we will sow. If we reap greed and selfishness, we're going to sow. If we sow that, we're going to reap that, and that's punishment. So what it is that we should do, because we've been blessed with this. Why did he bless us with this? It's simple. He blessed us with these things so that we in turn could bless others by helping them by sharing what we have been given. And I mean personally. It goes beyond the gift that we give to our congregational church. The offering that we give that allows the church building to stay open and the preacher to be paid and the programs to be available. Far beyond that. That's the beginning. And a small beginning it is at that. Well, what about, Steve, what about poor people? You're telling me that I've been given all this so that I can help the poor and help others in need and so forth, just like Jesus did. And that's what I'm telling you. What about the poor? They don't have any money. They don't have any resources. No, they don't. And Jesus said they will be with us always. So, what do? Are they just out there with their hands out? No. They have time. As I said earlier, Jesus' resource was his time. And he spent all of it helping other people. Those that are poor are more likely to use their time helping others than those of us who are well-to-do. That is a fact. There are statistics that you can look up to find that to be true. Remember the story of the widow's mite. This is also, I believe, in Luke. And Jesus is watching everyone come in and put their gifts into the treasury. And there are many people coming in there putting large amounts of money. And they're doing so out of their plenty. And it's just fine what they're doing. They're doing what the Lord told them to do in the Old Testament. They are paying their tithes. And then comes the widow who put in everything she had. Everything. Everything she had. Everything she had to live on. And Jesus pointed out to them that she put in more than all of the rest of them combined, because they put in out of their surplus. She put in everything she had. In other words, the greatest gift God can give us is the faith to be able to do the same thing. And as a matter of fact, he requires it of us. If we can't give everything we have into his hands spiritually, then we need to be careful of what we're doing, because we are putting ourselves in a precarious position. Look, no one likes to talk about money, especially those that are rich. I don't get any joy out of talking about money. I do it because I look at my brethren that I know and dearly love, and that are well off and been well blessed, and I know they do many, many things to help other people. I know they do. But I just want to make sure, I pray to God that they also pray to God and ask him, am I doing enough? Can I do more? I'll leave you with one scripture that's pretty well sums it up for me. And that's 1 John 3:17. The Apostle John is talking about love. And he says, how can the love of Christ be in a Christian's heart if he can walk by one of his brethren and see them in need and say, be well, and just walk on by without helping them? Well, you might say, well, if I see need, I help it. Do you? Do you really? Are your eyes open to it? How many people in the church you go to, how many do you really know what their condition is? I believe it behooves us as followers of Christ, as those that stand before the world as bright lights. The only way that can happen is if love is the fuel of that flame. There's no other way it can be done. And if we have that love burning in our heart, we will be looking for those that in need, and we will not let anything stop us from helping those that are in our power to help. Well, I hope you got something out of the lesson, and I hope you have a good week, and God bless you.